Ming'S red panda horse. Let's start by talking about our dear May, because before we get into the theory about Ming's giant panda, it's important to understand what happens with May and how emotions affect her transformations. Remember that super embarrassing scene at the beginning of the movie when May's mother, Ming, finds her notebook full of drawings of Devon? Well, Ming just takes the notebook and goes up to the guy to expose everything in front of everyone. Imagine the embarrassment. May is completely speechless, with Tyler teasing her and everything. Even so, May keeps all those overwhelming feelings to herself. You can see this when she squeezes her leg tightly, clearly trying to hold back her emotions. Later, in her room, she ends up breaking down alone, full of anger, anxiety, and sadness. She even tells the mirror that it will never happen again. In other words, she exploded alone, without allowing herself to express everything she felt at the moment. This is super important because, in the universe of turning red, the panda appears when you can no longer hold back your feelings. That's why May's panda appeared earlier than expected. Her mother even said she thought there was still more time to prepare, and the aunts also couldn't believe this could happen so soon. But the truth is, May simply exploded because of the mix of repressed emotions she was keeping inside. Now that we understand how May's repressed emotions led to the early appearance of her panda, let's take a step further and explore the difference between her panda and Ming's gigantic panda. May's panda, although big for a child, doesn't come close to the colossal size of her mother's panda. But why is Ming's panda so much bigger? The answer may lie in the different ways mother and daughter handle their emotions. While May ended up exploding early and releasing everything she was holding back, Ming seems to have followed an opposite path. She spent her whole life controlling her emotions, keeping everything inside without ever letting her true feelings show. And here's where my theory comes in. The size of the panda is directly related to how much you've suppressed your emotions. The more you keep to yourself and don't release, the bigger the impact when everything finally comes out. Ming never had an emotional outburst before her transformation, unlike May. Even as an adult, she kept all her emotions under tight control. It was only in the astral plane, when she finally let go of everything she had been holding back, that her panda appeared in gigantic proportions. This makes us think that Ming's panda is not just a reflection of her strong temperament or explosive personality, but rather the result of a lifetime of emotional repression. All that accumulated anger, fear, and frustration over the years manifested into a massive panda, symbolizing the emotional weight she carried. So far, we've seen how May's repressed emotions led to the emergence of her panda, and how Ming's panda manifests in a gigantic form due to prolonged emotional repression. But let's dive deeper into this relationship between control and repression in Ming. From the beginning of the movie, it's clear that Ming is an extremely controlled and rigid person. She is obsessively concerned with May's education and behavior, trying to mold her to be perfect. The relationship between Ming and her own mother, May's grandmother, seems to be the key to understanding why Ming acts this way. During the scene where May asks to go to the concert, we can see Ming's discomfort when receiving a call from her mother. She didn't want to answer, and when she finally does, she shrinks back on the sofa, showing fear. Their conversation is brief, but enough for Ming to revert to a perfect posture, trying to prove that everything is under control and that she is flawless, even from a distance. This desire for perfection seems rooted in the fear of displeasing her mother, of not being good enough. Ming was raised with very high expectations, and she carries this with her into adulthood. Instead of expressing her true emotions and desires, she molds herself to please others, especially her mother. This makes Ming spend her life repressing who she truly is, following patterns that were imposed on her from a very young age. This cycle of control and emotional repression creates an internal conflict that Ming never resolves. Unlike May, who eventually learns to release her emotions, Ming remains closed off, hiding everything behind a facade of perfection. And this is exactly what makes her panda so gigantic. It is the physical manifestation of years and years of unreleased emotions. Now that we understand how Ming's emotional control contributed to the colossal size of her panda, it's interesting to observe the contrast between her and her sisters, May's aunts. In the movie, we can see that May's aunts are much more relaxed in terms of behavior and style. They wear colorful and more casual clothes, like sweatshirts, sunglasses, and jackets, demonstrating a more laid-back personality. This suggests that, although they also carry the red panda gene, they seem not to have repressed their emotions in the same way as Ming. On the other hand, Mei's grandmother presents herself in a way more similar to Ming. Her attire is formal, and her rigid behavior reflects a traditionalism that carries a sense of duty and perfection. Like Ming, she maintains a style that references Chinese culture, demonstrating that she follows cultural and familial standards with great seriousness. This difference between Ming and her sisters may indicate that while Ming continued to follow the path of perfection imposed by her grandmother, her sisters perhaps found a way to better balance their emotions and live with more freedom. They may have undergone the panda containment ritual in their own lives, but without carrying the emotional weight that Ming carries. This could explain why the aunt's pandas don't seem as big or scary as Ming's. Ming, however, got stuck in this cycle of trying to please her mother and follow cultural expectations. That's why, when Mei's grandmother arrives for the ritual, we see Ming nervously preparing, making sure everything is perfect. She shrinks and adopts a rigid posture in her mother's presence, showing that even as an adult, she still lives in the shadow of this imposed perfection. In contrast, Mei's aunts maintain a more relaxed and independent attitude. In conclusion, we can say that the gigantic size of Ming's panda in turning red is not just a manifestation of her strong personality, but rather a reflection of a lifetime of emotional repression. Over the years, Ming suppressed her feelings and kept herself under tight control to please her mother and follow the standards of perfection imposed on her. Unlike her sisters, who seem to have found ways to release their emotions in a healthy manner, Ming never allowed herself to be who she truly is. This cycle of repression resulted in a giant panda, symbolizing the emotional burden accumulated over her entire life. Through this contrast with Mei's aunts and grandmother, the film gives us clues that the size of the panda is directly related to the amount of unresolved and stored emotions. While Mei learns to deal with her emotions and accepts her panda as part of who she is, Ming is still trapped in this cycle of control and perfection, never having truly released her feelings before her transformation in the astral plane. This theory makes us reflect on the importance of expressing our emotions and not carrying the burden of trying to be perfect in the eyes of others. Ming's giant panda serves as a warning to all of us about the dangers of hiding who we truly are and the emotional consequences this can bring. If she had released her emotions earlier, would her panda have been smaller? Leave your comment with your opinion, and let's continue this discussion. And if you like this theory, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more analyses like this. The relationship between Ming and her mother is one of the most intriguing and crucial aspects of Turning Red. From the beginning of the film, we can see that Ming not only exhibits a strict and rigid attitude towards her daughter, Mei, but she also carries a deep sense of reverence and fear when it comes to her own mother. This suggests that the cycle of control and high expectations has been passed down through generations, with the pressure to be perfect ingrained into Ming since childhood. Ming internalized these expectations so deeply that, even as an adult, she finds herself unable to break free from the standards imposed by her mother. This cycle of perfection is not only evident in Ming's life, but also in the way she raises Mei. Ming expects her daughter to follow in her footsteps, adhering to the same rules that have emotionally imprisoned her for years. This is particularly clear in the scenes where Ming demands that Mei maintain impeccable grades and perfect behavior, while Ming herself hides her anxieties and frustrations behind a calm and controlled exterior. She wants Mei to be perfect, but that perfection comes at the cost of emotional freedom, both for Ming and for Mei. The film also provides visual clues about this family dynamic. When Mei's grandmother and aunts arrive, we notice how Ming immediately transforms, adopting an even more rigid and formal demeanor. This shift in behavior reveals the profound respect and simultaneous fear that she feels about disappointing her mother. Even though Mei's grandmother seems somewhat less strict in certain scenes, Ming continues to try hard to impress her, showing that the cycle of family expectations is difficult to break, even when the elders appear to relax a little. Moreover, this dynamic is fascinating because Ming's behavior toward her own mother is mirrored in how she treats Mei. She reproduces the same pressures, wanting Mei to follow the path she walked, even if it means sacrificing her daughter's personal identity and desires. The cycle of emotional repression, clearly passed down from generation to generation, is one of the reasons why Ming's panda is so large. It symbolizes the accumulated weight of years of suppression and the constant internal struggle to meet the expectations of others. In the end, by exploring this family relationship more deeply, we realize that the true conflict in Turning Red is not just between Ming and Mei, but between Ming and her own unresolved emotions. Ming's fear of disappointing her mother prevents her from living authentically, and this same dynamic threatens to impact Mei's life. The film offers a powerful insight into how family pressures can shape behaviors, and more importantly, how breaking these cycles requires the courage to embrace who we truly are. Now I leave you with the question, to what extent do you think this emotional repression can be seen in other areas of Ming's life?